welcome back to my channel and to today's video where I'll be reorganising our utility and giving it all a deep clean. Recently it became a bit of a dumping ground and we neglected putting things away properly, so we just felt that it needed a full reset, and with spring right around the corner this seemed like the perfect time to do just that. So first things first, as I do with my wardrobe switchovers, I wanted to empty the room completely so that I had basically a blank canvas and just so that it was easier to clean. I removed everything from the shelves. We have 2 floating shelves in here, everything from the worktops and of course the cupboards, and we've got 7 of those. Now, our utility was a DIY project, and for anyone who is interested in seeing how we created it, if you haven't already, then I will leave a link to that video down below in the description box. It's actually our most popular video ever, with over 1.5 million views so far, and spoiler alert, it is an IKEA hack. And we think it turned out really well. So when emptying the room, I used our dining area, which is next to the utility, to do that, and I kept everything in designated categories just so that it'd make things easier when reorganising and when moving them back into the cupboards and other spaces. To start off the deep clean, I used a washing machine cleaner and popped that on a hot cycle so that could just run in the background whilst I was doing the other cleaning bits. Depending on how often we've used the washing machine, I do use these every few months along with white vinegar and bicarbonate of soda just to keep the machine clean and running efficiently, given that we do live in a very hard water area. Now, to set a more relaxing environment for the epic task that lay ahead of me, I lit some incense and then made myself a cup of tea. This was actually the first of many cups consumed on this day. Now, recently I was given the FAQ 202 by FOREO to try out, and I've been using it for a few weeks now. The first bonus of this LED face mask is that it's wireless, so you can multitask and just continue about your day as normal. So if, like me, you struggle to keep still, it's pretty perfect to fit into an existing skincare routine without taking up any extra time. And as you can see, it's made from silicone, which not only means that it's very hygienic and easy to clean, but it's also incredibly lightweight and flexible. So it molds to any face shape, which is beneficial because then you get an even LED light coverage across the whole face area. It has 8 different wavelengths, including NIR, near infrared, and these wavelengths can tackle a myriad of skin concerns, from reducing wrinkles and age spots, minimising pores, evening out skin tone, reducing acne, or just giving your skin a natural and healthy glow. Now, I've been using mine 5 times a week for about 13 to 15 minutes each time for the last 3 to 4 weeks, and I've definitely noticed an improvement in my skin. So first of all, the pores on my nose are shrinking, the oily areas of my skin are less oily, particularly when I wake up in the morning. Wrinkles are definitely less visible, and I've got a sunspot on the right side of my face, which I have tried countless lotions and potions on over the years, none of which have ever worked, but that has become much lighter and less visible. And to be honest, I can't tell you how thrilled I am about that. Now for the really good news. The FAQ 202 is rarely on discount, but with my code, which is displayed on screen now and also accessible with the link down below in the description box, you can get 30% off. And it's not just off this face mask, but off any FOREO product, even if it's already discounted. Right, so I had cleaned all the cupboards by this point, and then I moved on to cleaning the shelves, which had accumulated a fair bit of dust, and then followed by the worktops. I also cleaned any areas on the walls and skirting boards that had some muddy splashes from when we bring the dogs in from their walk. This is another reason that I love Little Green Intelligent Matte Paint. You can give it a good old scrub and then it looks as good as new. Next, I moved on to cleaning the dog bath. So these tiles are really easy to clean. We've got them in our ensuite as well, but the grout is white, so sometimes that needs a little bit of a scrub with a brush, especially throughout winter when the dogs are getting rinsed down every day after a muddy walk in the fields. Now on to one of my favourite tasks. Weird, I know, but the heart wants what it wants. I love cleaning the tumble dryer and washing machine. They're used most weeks and we have 4 highly molting dogs, so when I wash and dry their towels, beds, coats and jumpers, harnesses, whatever, there's a lot of hair build up. Our tumble dryer is a heat pump dryer, so you can't remove the filter entirely, but it should be cleaned regularly in order to keep it running efficiently. So I use a little brush to clean in between the filaments, only using vertical movements. On a heat pump dryer, you should never scrub at these filaments or use any horizontal movements. In order to maintain the efficiency of a heat pump dryer, they always need to be spaced and not closed together. If they're closed together, that is bad. I usually empty the fluff filters after every cycle, but I give them a deeper clean like this every few weeks, depending on how frequently I've used the dryer. In summer, this does tend to be a lot less because I air dry everything outside. It's normally just towels and bedding that I'll give a little freshen up when about 80% dry on a quick cycle, just to soften them up. Using the remainder of the washing machine cleaner, I cleaned the inside of the washer door. This can get a little bit of a build-up of limescale, again, just one of the many cons of being in a hard water area, so I need to keep on top of this. Then inside the rubber part between the door and the drum, if you've never looked inside there on your machine, then brace yourself. This is often where we get a build-up of dog hair, so I usually give this a clean just with a damp cloth after about every 2 or 3 cycles. Finally, the detergent drawer, my arch nemesis. I clean this a lot and yet it always looks grim. It's just a build-up of detergent, fabric softener, and even though I use a washing machine descaler in every wash, along with white vinegar and bicarb, this drawer always needs cleaning. But it is a very satisfying clean to get it looking as good as new. The same goes for the inside of the machine where the drawer sits. I gave that a spray with Vical, just left it for a few minutes whilst I cleaned the outside of the door and then went back to it with a little brush just before rinsing out and then putting the drawer back in. I then popped the machine on a rinse cycle just to swill away any of the cleaning products that had been drained into the drum. And then I had a much needed break for lunch. Returning after an hour with a nice full belly, and the dryer filters were dry after having been left in the early spring sunshine that we've had this week. So I put those back inside the machine. We recently had solar panels installed and the electricians needed to feed a wire through the wall to connect to our electric meter, which is in this room, cleverly hidden by another IKEA hack. So this meant that we had some paint touch-ups to do. So I enlisted Simon to do this whilst I kept cleaning. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of this by now, but for those who by some miracle have missed it, the paint we have in this room, and all others for that matter, is Joanna by Little Green. It's the greatest paint of all time, and I will die on that hill. Back to me, and I had started bringing things back in from the dining area. So I wanted to do the more visible things on display first, because then I'd know how much I had left to go into the cupboards before reorganising those. Something else you guys know about me is that I love my label maker. So yes, I do have clear jars with certain things inside which are then unnecessarily labelled because I like the look of it. Cleaning and laundry product packaging is never very aesthetically appealing to me, and we don't have small children, so I can have some of my products in these less than secure jars. I topped up my existing product jars and made some new labels for some things that I changed around, and then I just gave them a clean because they had been out on the shelves and worktops previously, so had gathered a little bit of dust. I know it might seem a little bit labour intensive, and yes, it is, but I personally find cleaning quite therapeutic, and for me, it's a really good way to burn off some energy when I'm having a hyperactive ADHD moment. So once I had all of my jars cleaned, filled and labelled correctly, I then started to place them where I wanted them. So laundry products, for example, on the floating shelf by the washer and dryer so that they're easily accessible. And then any additional products on the top shelf of the cupboard, which is nearest the laundry area. I also started to add in some decor items, and this was a great opportunity for me to add in some spring touches ahead of the spring home refresh that I do every year. You guys really love the seasonal home refresh videos that I post, so I have of course been filming this new one, and you can expect to see that video here on YouTube next Sunday. Right, then I moved on to the cupboards, and I kept the category of each cupboard the same as before, but I just switched the placement of two of the cupboards around so that it just made more sense. The first two cupboards are dog related. We have their food bin in the end one, and that takes up pretty much the entire cupboard, which is fine because we have the space. And then the second one is where we keep everything else, from their bowls to their treats, doggy first aid kit, an essential, and then any other health and doggy maintenance items. The next cupboard has a box that we keep batteries, cables and other bits and bobs in. It's basically our junk drawer, but in a box format. This really needed clearing out, so I went through all of the cables and minimised those to what we actually need, and then reorganised the box before popping it back in the cupboard, along with our human first aid bag, and then on the bottom shelf, all of our table dressings, so placemats, tablecloths and napkins. The next two cupboards under the window were going to be cleaning products, so I brought in everything in that category, and I basically just fiddled about with it until everything fit inside. The shelves in these cupboards can be moved, but I prefer to keep the top shelf a little bit shorter than the bottom shelf so that I can have the taller items on the bottom and then the shorter items on the top. The last cupboard under the window is my home fragrance cupboard, and this is where I would be keeping all of my candle making supplies, along with any store-bought home fragrance items. The final cupboard, where I already part filled with some of the laundry supplies earlier, is home to the dog towels. It is located next to the dog bath, so again, it's just about easy access and what makes sense. And then finally, I gave the floor a hoover and a clean before bringing in the last items. We added wall brackets for the ironing board to sit on so that it wasn't taking up any floor space, and then I was able to add in a mat and some additional water bowls for the dogs for when they come in after their warmer weather walks. I added a jute rug to make it feel more spring-summer appropriate, although I have a feeling that when winter comes I will need to change it over for something that is washable. And there we have it, a day very well spent giving this room a much needed deep clean and reorganise. It really feels much fresher in here now, and everything has its place. So I'm hoping it stays that way. Just a reminder of the discount code that I shared earlier, where you can get 30% off all products on the FOREO site, including the FAQ 202 LED face mask. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next week for my full spring home refresh.